And welcome to another edition of ISU's In Depth. I'm Jerry Miller, voice of the Bengals, and I'm kind of dressed for the part today. At least the shirt I'm wearing will give you a clue as to our topic of conversation. A week or two ago, we interviewed volleyball head coach Sammy Stewart, and today we have the opportunity for the first time for me to talk to Robbie Berrett. Robbie hired as an assistant at ISU a year ago, June. And Robbie, it's great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. I like that shirt. I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's a nice shirt, one of my favorites, I have to admit. Let's talk about Robbie Berrett. Who the heck are you, and where did you come from? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I was born in Ogden, Utah. Grew up in Ogden, Utah, and I might not want to share this. I went to Weber State.
I know, but that's okay. We have forgiving hearts.
That's good. But yeah, went to Weber State, and then I got my first coaching job in Alaska, where I coached at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and that's where I was the last 4 years before I was able to get Sammy to let me come and join her here at Idaho State.
So when Robbie Berrett was growing up, what kind of sports did you play?
So I grew up playing basketball. Basketball was my first love, and baseball. Those were my big two sports right there. And
you didn't play volleyball?
I didn't play volleyball. In fact, I remember being in high school, and I had a family friend who's a big volleyball player. He's a little older, asked me if I wanted to play boys club volleyball. And I said, no, that's a girl sport. I wasn't really introduced to volleyball like a lot of volleyball players. And it wasn't until I started college that I really got into volleyball.
I remember my first real exposure to volleyball came, I believe it was 1971. Salt Lake City hosted the AAU Amateur Championships with men's teams from all over the country. And a bunch of friends of mine drove down to Salt Lake. We grew up in the area that I live in right now, in the Sugar City, Rexburg area. And we drove down to Salt Lake and watched 2.5, 3 days of what I had no idea existed. One of the most physical and exhilarating sports was watching men's volleyball. It was amazing, the athletic things I saw. And I've been a fan ever since.
Yeah, I was obviously exposed to women's volleyball. But living in Utah, there's a big men's scene as well. And obviously in Provo, you got BYU.
National champions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I remember going to my first BYU men's volleyball match. And it's another level. Even watching it on TV doesn't do it much justice. But yeah, and then getting exposed to the women's volleyball collegiately once I got into college, that was another level as well. And so, yeah, I was just drawn to the sport, kind of crazy, just got hooked, and found my way onto Weber State's women's volleyball staff. Head coach at the time was Tom Peterson, and he won a national championship with BYU's men's team and Penn State's men's team. So I didn't want to, squander that opportunity to be able to be around him daily and see him and his staff at work, and it just kind of took off from there.
Well, it sounds like you've had a pretty solid background from when you started with the sport. Tell us about your family.
So I moved up to Alaska single, and right before I moved up, I met what would be my wife. And luckily we were able to keep in touch a little bit. And when I came back after our first season in December to Utah, and we met at a mutual friend's, again, Christmas party. And then from there, we decided to do the dating thing. and long distance dating thing. And then she moved up to Alaska and we got married, and we've been married for 3 years, and we just had a little girl a little over a year ago. Her name's Austin. And in fact, right when we had Austin is when I found out that I'd be joining Sammy here at Idaho State. And so my wife is from Layton, and so we were very grateful for the opportunity to be a lot closer to family, especially now having our firstborn. And 2 weeks after she had Austin, I sent him home on a plane, and I finished some renovations on our home in Alaska to get it ready to sell. And then my parents flew up, and we made the long 4-day journey drive home from Alaska. So it's been quite an experience, but that's me and my little family, and we've been in Alaska, and now we're in Idaho. And even though we're both from Utah, we have yet to live in Utah around our family since we
So
started.
that's okay.
Yeah, no, we've really enjoyed it. And even being this close, sometimes we're like, oh, we kind of miss Alaska. Now that we have family a lot closer, though, it's been fun. They'll just come up and visit once in a while for a weekend, and that's something that just wasn't possible. So
Years ago, I spent 4 days in Fairbanks, Alaska, in the
really,
middle of the winter with ISU men's basketball team.
oh, okay,
And the thing I remember about it, besides being about 20, 30 below zero the entire time we were there, was that we were right next to Santa's North Pole.
yeah, North Pole. There you go. Well, in fact, Fairbanks is north of the North Pole.
Yep. And as a team, we got to go out to the North Pole and visit that and see the reindeer and all those things that are there. It's kind of, the travel can be bad, but being involved with college athletics gives you a lot of opportunities to see places and things you would never see otherwise.
That's definitely something I found out. I never imagined living in Alaska, and that's where it took me. So, and I wouldn't have it any other way. That place was amazing. And in fact, we got to do one example. We had recruited a girl from Alaska, from Anchorage, and her family had a monster truck safari company. And so for one preseason, we went Denali National Park. Just outside of Denali is where their little base was. And these things were huge. And so as a team, we were in 3 big old monster trucks just cruising around Denali National Park, where we saw bears and moose and caribou, and got to, cross through rivers and up mountains. Is crazy. And it was a blast. And I don't know that we could do that anywhere else.
So what was it that led you to reach out to Sammy Stewart when she was hired as head coach at Idaho State for the opportunity to become her assistant? And tell us how you knew Sammy.
So last year when Sammy was hired, that summer, I met her because I know Grayson, who was the head coach at Utah State last year, and she was his assistant. And so when we were out recruiting in Colorado, the head coach that I worked with got his start with Grayson at Utah State. And so we ran into them at Chipotle for lunch, and that's when I met Sammy. And so that's kind of how we met. And coming from Weber State, I always kept track of the Big Sky, followed the Big Sky. And I saw that Idaho State had a head coaching job open. And so as soon as I saw that Sammy got the head coaching job, I just reached out to her. I got her number, and I gave her a call, and she said, hey, what's up? I said, hey, I want to be your next assistant. I want to be in the Big Sky, and I know the history of Idaho State volleyball. and it can be a good history. You can recruit well here, and it's an awesome facility, great fan base. I remember coming and playing here, and it was a great turnout. And so I told her that I would be super excited if she would have me as her assistant, and it worked out. It worked out. So from there.
Well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you took a chance, you rolled the dice, you gave her a call, and it's exciting to have you here and watch you courtside during volleyball matches. What are your specific responsibilities with the team?
So I work a lot with our offense. And so, I mean, that's the same players because we play both offense and defense, but specifically with the setters, I work a lot with, and then just kind of how we like to run our offensive systems.
What is unique about the sport of volleyball to you?
It's unique. It's not like any other sport. I think you can say that about every sport, but I really like that about this sport. I think it's explosive, and I love explosive. It could be maybe the equivalent of a dunking contest in basketball. Because of how explosive it is. You get to do some awesome things, and the women's sport specifically is such a fun game because the rallies can be long, and it can really build up, and it's super fun to see that outcome. A question that I ask players when we're recruiting them is what's their favorite part about the position they play. And when I talk to outside hitters, they tell me they love killing a ball. They love putting a ball away. And I think that's what my answer would be to your question. That's what I think is so unique, and one of my favorite parts of volleyball is watching our offense be able to run an offense and to terminate that ball. That can be very exhilarating.
There's truly nothing quite like watching a young woman sky up into the air and nail a hammer kill. That's just amazing.
I know we've got last year, one that was fun to watch was Taylor Meeks. She can touch a very high ball and can swing over a lot of blocks. And so when it works out just right, it's a lot of fun.
So what's it like to coach with Sammy?
Sammy, I really like to coach with Sammy. Her coaching style is similar to what mine is. She's very no nonsense, and you'll hear a lot of players that will kind of joke around if it isn't sufficient, if it's not efficient, if the question you have doesn't make anything efficient in the gym, then you know Sammy's just gonna laugh at you. She's not gonna give you the time of day unless it's gonna be something that's efficient. And so that's kind of wraps up, I think, her personality a little bit. Is she's very on the ball, on target, on a schedule, has goals in mind, and that's what we're gonna work on, and very no nonsense. And I enjoy that. She's also grew up on a ranch, which is fun because it brings a little bit of a dynamic to our team. I think that a lot of the girls can get used to or can learn about. When they had their branding season, she was sending the whole team all the pictures. When they were castrating the cows, she was sending teams all the pictures, getting ready for those. I don't even know what you call them. Whatever it is, the way they cook them and then they eat them.
She's the Rocky Mountain oysters.
Rocky Mountain oysters. That's it. See, and I'm learning too. And so she sent pictures to everyone saying, "All right, who's hungry?" and it's just funny. It's fun to see them interact with her like that, and it's a different culture to grow up around a rancher. And so it's a lot of fun.
You know, if you cook them right, they're pretty darn tasty.
She swears that's the case too. And I say, good for you.
Sammy is tough. That ranch life growing up. I grew up on a ranch with cattle, and we've done roundups and branding and cattle drives and the same thing. Everything that you talked about with Sammy, and that's one of the things I appreciate with her. And I think it does bring a toughness to the court, the way she coaches the kids. And as you said, very efficient. And when you're on a ranch and you're working with cattle, there's no room for inefficiency.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I can tell it's great for the girls too to get an idea of that work ethic.
So tell us about the team right now, what you guys are doing with a season that's been postponed and moved to the spring. What are you guys involved in doing right now?
So I would say right now we're just grateful to be able to play volleyball. I think that kind of put a perspective on things. And as much as we wish we were in season right now, wish we were competing, we're just grateful that we can be in the gym and still working on the craft and the sport that we love. And so right now we're just playing volleyball. We're in the gym. We're not broken up into positions or anything. We're with the whole team, and we're getting to play a lot of 6-on-6 and to get some reps, and just kind of seeing where we're at and preparing for the spring. Right now, that's the goal. And so it's been a lot of fun. We've got 5 new athletes with us this year. 3 freshmen and 2 junior college transfers, and 2 of those recruits that came on campus we didn't even get up here on a visit because of COVID. And so that's a new and a first for us as far as recruiting goes. And that's a little scary sometimes, because maybe you feel like you didn't get the best opportunity to see the kid, or they didn't get the best opportunity to fill out our team and to see kind of what our culture is that we're trying to build here. And I'll say that I think we definitely have been blessed with great kids, despite all those roadblocks in trying to recruit and not being able to see them in person. Celestial is one that we didn't get to bring on campus, and Sean is another one. And they have formed with our girls and with our culture seamlessly. It's been exciting to have them here and to watch what our team is becoming.
A word we hear coaches use a lot is the word culture. Can you describe the culture of volleyball at ISU with Coach Stewart and you?
Yeah, so our culture, the one that we're trying to establish here, is that Sammy always says that we want to be good to and for our team. And that can encompass a lot of aspects, just our team, first of all, ourselves, our team, and then this university. And so, when they're not in the gym, what is it that they're doing? And in the back of their minds, is this good for and good to my team? What I'm doing in my classroom, what I'm doing, with opportunities to serve, what I'm doing with my friends that I have, that what we're doing socially. And so that encompasses a lot. And I think that we're in the right direction here, where our studies are important. We're students first. And then on the court, we're volleyball players. We're going to give everything we've got. And I think even last year, they exemplified that a lot. We had a lot of examples where we had sets where we were probably blown out, and it seemed like, okay, well, what's this rest of this match going to look like? And we come out and we battle. Even if we lost, we would take, I think, everything in us and leave it out there on the court. And so that's kind of our culture. And now from there, we've got to we've got to fine tune some things and get better on the court specifically.
Big Sky coaches don't give Idaho State a lot of credit right now in the volleyball poll. You're kind of looking up at everybody else in terms of the coaches poll. And I've been around athletics long enough to know that most coaches don't care one way or another. You know, if they're picked to win it all, they wish they weren't. If they're picked at the bottom, sometimes they're happy about that because it can give the players really something to work for. But tell us about the team that you're going to put on the court when the season finally does start in the spring, and what are volleyball fans of the Bengals going to see?
So I did see that coaches poll, and I will say, I mean, it doesn't really affect us in our preparation and what we think we can do. But it is kind of fun too to have a little bit of fuel to the fire. And I think that the team that we're putting together and that we have right now is going to look a little different than it did last year. So statistically, one thing we want to work on is terminating the ball, you know, killing a ball and getting a point. And last year, and it's not anything new, I think you could talk to our team from last year. That's something that we struggled with. And so this year, that's kind of how we would want to improve. And I think we will see an improvement in that statistic specifically. We did lose a few outside hitters. In fact, I think we only have 2 left from last year into this year. And then Kennedy redshirted last year, so I guess we have 3 now. And so we're going to have all new pin hitters that are going to be on the court. The only one that is still with us that played last year is Danny and Reagan. And even then, I think Danny just had a couple reps. You know, she's making a transition from being a setter to a pin hitter. And so it was a matter of a lot of reps. And so I think that's going to be the biggest difference this year.
Reagan definitely has the ability to pop into that hit.
Even then, I think you might see some new things from her this season as far as swinging from both pins, whereas she was just a right side. So those are a couple of the things I think that will be a little bit different than what's been seen as of last year, for sure.
Well, Robbie, can't wait for ISU volleyball and to see the Bengals back in action in Reed Gym. And I'm sure the way I feel doesn't compare at all to how you and the rest of the staff and the players feel in terms of wanting to get back out there and really get into it. Any word yet on when you're going to play?
The spring. Even then, you never know. With the way that COVID is going, things change so quickly. But we should be hearing soon, hopefully, about a schedule or a tentative schedule. And I'll tell you what, I've noticed the conferences that decided to play this year. I have seen some of their matches and some of their social media, and it's tough. I wish we could play so bad, but I understand obviously the situation, and I can't wait to be out there and competing with this team.
Well, Robbie, we're glad you took the opportunity to move to the opportunity to come to ISU. We're glad you reached out to Sammy. We're glad she brought you on board. We look forward to you and the Bengals doing some great things. It's been super to be able to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. And I look forward to seeing you courtside in Reed Gym.
Thanks, Jay. We're super excited to be here in Pocatello and be a part of the Bengal family.
We've been in depth with ISU assistant volleyball coach Robbie Berrett. Stay tuned. We'll have more episodes coming up in the near future. I'm Jerry Miller.